Okay, well, we've got four guys that have in common that they grew up together in Ackworth and were in the class of 71 at North Cobb High School, which is shocking as it may seem to some of us, 50-something years ago now.
Feels like it.
Well, y'all had a big reunion, I guess, not too long
Last year,
ago.
yeah.
And why don't we just begin with Kurt Johnson? And why don't you tell us a little bit first about your family and how they got to Ackworth and your memories of growing up here, and then we'll do something similar with everybody else.
Okay. Well, we were some of the first damn Yankees in town. We were living in Pennsylvania, in Levittown, which is part of greater Philadelphia area. And Dad had been laid off at his job. They were downsizing, and a friend of his was coming down here to interview with Lockheed, and he said, "Frank, why don't you come with me? They're hiring in Marietta, Georgia. Why don't you come down?" And he did. And about a month later, he brought my mother and me down here. This was April 1955, and been here ever since. Me in and out, but my parents spent the rest of their lives here.
So you'd have been about 2 at that time.
18 months, yeah.
18 months.
18
okay.
months, yeah.
Okay.
And my parents were both from Connecticut. We have a lot of ancestors from Connecticut and eastern New York and in Massachusetts. So, we were damn Yankees. And
but Levittown's got such a history too.
Yeah, it's I went back there about 10 years ago or more just to see the house, and I got out of the car and stood in the driveway for a picture, and people were looking at me from the living room like, "Who the hell is that?" But yeah, it was kind of a nice little community for veterans mainly. It was housing for veterans. So yeah.
Well, was it a shock coming here? Did they treat you like you were from? Well, you're talking about 55 that you came down.
Yes.
So you probably stood out like a sore thumb when you came down here in 55.
Probably, but everybody was pretty friendly. I mean, this is a very friendly town, and we had a few bad guys here, but every town has them. So
some of these guys are
yeah, well, these are the worst. They corrupted me. So I think we were always happy here. I mean, it was a nice place to be, and it was quiet. And honestly, people say, "Well, you never had to lock your front door when you lived in Ackworth," and that's probably true. I mean, you just didn't worry about much, So in the lakes, we had the lakes and the beaches and all that, so it was nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, what did you do for fun when you were growing up?
Oh gosh, I would get together with the other guys. I didn't live near these guys. But
you didn't?
No, I lived up at the the south end of town, and there was a group of us over there that would get together and run around and play in the woods and play backyard ball and stuff like that, and swim in the lake because we were very close to Lake Ackworth over there, and we had a lot going on. We'd fish and just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
So it was.
So how did you get to meet these guys?
School.
Yeah, when you started elementary school?
Yeah, Jimmy and I and Alan were in the same first grade class.
Kindergarten.
And kindergarten, I'm sorry. We were in kindergarten at the Methodist Church, the old Methodist Church that doesn't exist anymore.
Or the post office?
Yeah. And that was good because we were living out, we had rented a house on McKeever Road, which I guess is New McKeever Road now, and there's a huge subdivision there now, but it was tucked back down in the woods. It was a little dairy farm at one point. And we were down there, and I had nobody that I could walk next door and play with at that age. I was 3-4 years old, so I'm down there, and my parents said, I said, "Mom and Dad, why did we move away from that place?" And they said, "Because you were starting to talk to the animals." and they said, "We needed to get you some more friends," and that's one reason they put me in kindergarten, and it was...
No, they're
so you just met
bad
more
on
animals.
that.
Yeah.
I want to hear about George.
Oh, the burro?
Yeah.
Well, since I didn't have any human friends, they bought me a burro. And I don't know where they got him. They must have gotten him in Atlanta somewhere. His original name was Pedro. And from some reason, Mom and Dad renamed him George. And so Dad would saddle up George, and I would ride him around. And then after a while, the Davises, Lamar and Mary Davis, the parents of Gary and Joel Davis, had a horse named Blaze, and they were going to move, and they couldn't keep the horse, so we boarded that horse, I guess, until they could find a buyer for him. So Dad would ride the horse, and I'd ride George, and on a Saturday morning, we'd saddle up and go riding all over the place, way back in the woods, and there were some power lines back there, and we'd follow those trails, and we'd eat a lunch, and Dad packed his Colt 22 pistol, and we'd take target practice, because nobody cared about that stuff then. You could do anything out there. And that was some of my really fondest memories were doing that, yeah.
Well, I bet you hated it when you moved back into town.
Yeah, it was kind of a shock, because it was kind of like a Huckleberry Finn existence out there. It was, it was fun.
But you didn't really move that far, it doesn't sound like.
No, but it seemed like it at the time, because it was so different out there. I mean, it was, at nighttime, it was so black back there. There were no street lights, and it was just like being out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now, a lot of you have a Lockheed connection. You're, I guess,
The three of
three
us.
of you had fathers that worked at Lockheed.
Yep.
And was there like a Lockheed community in Ackworth?
Oh, well,
Not really.
we
I mean,
had a number of
There
friends.
was a lot of Lockheed
Ackworth was,
people here.
was a quiet farming
Yeah.
town, one really farming town. Most everybody either worked for Lockheed, or they were farmers, or some had small businesses.
Or
They
the
worked for the
mills.
mills.
And the mills.
The two
And
mills,
that was
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah, back in those days, half of Cobb County was Lockheed employees.
Yeah.
It was all,
Yeah, it was.
and I remember all the dads, they would carpool.
Oh, yeah.
Because the
Well, I
families,
was going to ask you, it sounds like a long way away from the plant to live in Ackworth. Back then, particularly, you didn't have I-75.
But there was no traffic.
Yeah.
there's no
There was
traffic.
no traffic.
Yeah.
Back in those days, the families, it's hard to believe now, but the families only had one car. Remember
Yes,
that? We only had one
yes.
car.
Right.
So all the dads would, of course, there were very few women working back then at Lockheed, but
Yep.
the dads would carpool to work every day.
Now, when I was reading all the newspapers back when Ernest Barrett was county commission chair and all that, everybody was complaining about the traffic in Cobb County back in the 60s and what have you, in the newspapers at least. It was,
Well, during the summertime, it was bad because all of the northerners were coming down to Florida,
right.
and you didn't have 75, so you would have Highway 41, Cobb Parkway now, but Highway 41 backed up as far as you could see.
At Christmas time, it would back up for about 12 miles.
Yeah.
Bumper to bumper.
Yeah, it was.
And then when they opened I-75, 41 became a ghost town.
Yeah, it did.
Where's 75 stop? It stopped like, they built it down to,
Well, it stopped about Town Center Mall.
At Kennesaw.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
And then I don't remember where it picked
Because
up.
people
but it
got
was
off
north
and
of
went
Cartersville.
41 and it backed up like
It
you
was
said.
north
Didn't it
Forever.
stop at the Loop? Was it the Loop? What is now the Loop?
Maybe.
yeah, it
maybe.
was at one time when I
Yeah.
first came here in
Yeah.
68.
But it was, and it was stopped at north of Cartersville.
That's where it was.
Also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, why don't we get the two Jimmies into the
All
story
right.
a little bit? Talk about your background.
Okay, which one you want to go
Well, let's
first?
see. Let's start with Jimmy Owen.
All right.
Jim Owen now.
Jim
No,
Owen
I'm
now,
just kidding.
but you told
I'm
me
just
it was
kidding. I
Jimmy
always,
back
when I'm in
then.
Ackworth, I'll always be Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about your family background and how you got to Ackworth. You were 6 years old when you
Yeah, as I said, my dad worked for Lockheed, and we were living in Decatur, Georgia. I was born in Atlanta, and all my siblings were born in Atlanta. And my oldest brother even went to Druid Hills High School over there. And so when I was 6, my dad got tired of fighting the traffic from Atlanta, city of Atlanta, to the plant in Lockheed in Marietta, which of course is still there, and we've been talking about. But so we moved to Ackworth.
Okay.
I don't know how he picked Ackworth or how he came up with that, but I mean, it was a culture shock going from the city to Ackworth, Georgia, and but it turned out really well. It was a great childhood. We managed to build a house on the lake, so we were right on Lake Allatoona when it was actually affordable. Wouldn't be now, but I guess I was told that. I remember my dad paid $25,000 for that house.
Well, that was a lot.
On acre. Probably back then it was. He probably thought he
You're talking
couldn't.
about in the 50s?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow, that's a mansion.
but
And that house recently sold for 1.2 million.
1.2 million. So I should have bought it about 25 years
I know,
ago.
I can remember when I thought anything that was over $100,000 was a mansion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it actually turned out to be it was a culture shock, but it was a wonderful experience. And met all these guys, but
Yeah.
growing up on the lake like that and being a small town, and you could participate in all the sports and all the activities, and it was just a lot of fun. And being so many Lockheed people, that it seemed like the families were a lot of young families with young kids, and our neighborhood had what, 12, 14 boys.
Within like 3 years of each
Yeah.
other. So we had sports, north and south football games, and we all played sports.
Yeah, we all played sports, and during the summer, we'd stay out till it got dark playing baseball. And
Where did you play? What's the field? What field?
Coach
Pe-
and Clark. Coach and Clark.
people's yard, or we'd go over to the flats.
Yeah, the flats.
Remember we go
at
the
Ackworth
flats by
Elementary.
Ackworth Elementary. I remember going over there and playing. That'd be 10-on-10 tackle football games, and no pads. I don't know how we didn't kill each other, but so. But
That's great. Thank you.
every house had a basketball goal, so we played a whole lot of basketball
Uh-huh.
at people's houses, and
So you grew up playing football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the spring?
Pretty much.
yeah.
And Ackworth Elementary, talk about that a little bit.
Oh, wow. What grade did we start?
You
at?
started at second grade.
Second grade, yeah.
Yeah, that's when you came.
Second grade, and I can't even remember who the teacher was, but it was a good experience. Joe Hayes was the principal,
Yeah.
and he was a character, great principal, and
A character? Why
He
do you
just had
call him a
the-
character?
had a strong personality and was pretty abrupt, but he was a great man and a great principal. But
Uh-huh.
I remember one time, I got a twin brother, Johnny. Of course, he goes by John too. But so I remember one time we brought a little gardener snake to school, and we were proud of it, going to show and tell at elementary school, and got off the bus, and Joe Hayes saw it and grabbed it and put it down and stomped it. And my dad was a very calm, and they ended up being very good friends, but my dad was very laid back and calm, and he got mad about that. And Joe killing our snake. I can't remember if I cried, probably cried for days, didn't I?
Probably did. You're so sensitive.
But, and I remember on Saturday mornings, we never got up early. You like to sleep in. But remember, we'd go over, I'd ride my bike over to Ackworth Elementary, and we played basketball. Remember Saturday morning, they had the big, huge basketball people playing, and it's the only thing that get me out of bed, to ride over to Ackworth Elementary or ride over to the beach and play pinballs, pinball machines.
Now, where did you play basketball, at the school?
Yeah,
And was this outdoors or
no,
indoors?
they in the gym.
In
They
the
opened up
gym.
the gym on
So they
Saturdays.
opened it, okay.
Yeah, on Saturday mornings, and there'd be a big crowd of people. And
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see, I guess Jimmy Daniel, you were very, very young when your family moved here.
Yeah, I moved here when I was about 6 months old. I was born in Austell, Georgia, at the hospital there, which no longer exists. We lived off of Florence Road when I was born. We moved here, and we moved to a little house behind the Davis Chenille store that was over on 41 at that time. And we lived there for a number of years and got to know the Davises real well. And I remember they had a son named Ray Ray, and became real good friends with them. But it was just a fun experience living there. And then we moved. I I was gone for a couple of years in the 5th and 6th grade over to Hiram, and then I moved back. And when we moved back, we lived not far from where Mac Turner lived off Southside Drive.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of my time playing with the guys that lived around there on Cowan Circle and Cowan Road. And then also spent a lot of time playing baseball and Pop Warner football on the Coates and Clark's field. I just remember going there and just having a lot of fun. And they also had, if you remember, the donkey softball games where you would have to hit the ball and you'd have to ride the donkey to first base, or you drag the donkey or whatever. But just those things remind me of that. Had a lot of friends that lived in a mill village that was part of the Coates and Clark's mill. In fact, when I was walking, I'd walk across the railroad tracks to the park and didn't even know that there was a cemetery there until I got to reading about the mill village itself, and it had been there for years. If I would have been a small kid walking by a cemetery, I'd probably been scared to death, but I didn't even know it was there. But I grew up playing a lot of baseball and football. But I spent a lot of time fishing also.
Did you?
Yeah, and I fished a lot on Altoona. I would go out toward Kellogg Creek in Cherokee County and fished out in that area a whole lot.
Yeah. Now, the Eli Whitney School was closed down by the time
Yes.
you all came along.
Yeah, it was the Coates and Clark's Community Center at that point.
So everybody who was white was going to Ackworth Elementary.
Yes, yes. We didn't integrate until till we were at Autry, I guess.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, till we were at Autry.
Middle school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you all went from 6 years at Ackworth Elementary?
7.
7.
We were the
7?
last. We were the last 7th grade class there.
Oh, okay.
When Autry became a school, the Kennesaw moved in 1 year, and they did alternate days with North Cobb was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday at North Cobb, and then the Autry students from Kennesaw were Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Because Autry was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
7th, 8th,
Because
and
now
9th
middle
at that
school's,
point. Yeah.
9th grade you go to high school.
So we didn't go to Autry until we were the 8th grade.
Yeah.
So we were the last 7th grade, and we had 4 teachers. We changed, changed classes like we were
Oh, that's
doing at
right.
Autry
I
and
remember
whatever. But we had Butch Price was one of our teachers. His wife was another one. Mr. Miller, the Monkey Man.
Yeah, monkey man, yeah.
The monkey man.
I'll tell you the story about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Anyway, he was the science teacher, and Frank Brown was the history teacher, history math, I guess is what it was.
Yeah.
But Frank Brown also did track, and that's where Johnny and I
started with him.
ran track for Frank Brown. But the Monkey Man, he was a science teacher, and he lived, what was the name of the street? Wasn't Academy. But anyway, it's going down towards the beach.
Down the beach, yeah.
Yeah, and he wanted our class to have a monkey.
I forgot all about this.
He wanted everybody to bring in money, take up money to buy a monkey.
Well, what were they going to do? What was he going to do?
We
with
never
it?
understood.
We never knew.
It was one of those deals, excuse me, Jimmy, for interrupting, but
That's all
it
right.
was one of those deals that he found, the backs of comic book covers used to advertise the live
little
monkey for
teacup
sale.
monkey or something.
And this teacher decided he wanted one of these monkeys, so
And have
you
us pay
tell
for
it.
it.
You tell it, Jimmy.
So he got
Yeah.
the kids to pay for it
Yeah,
all.
we paid for it.
We saw the monkey one time. That's all.
That'd be
It
against the
stayed
law
at his
now.
house.
It was at his
Stayed
house.
at his
We
house.
actually
Yeah.
walked from the school down to his house, saw the monkey, and walked
You all
back.
paid for it?
We paid for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did he get in trouble for that?
I don't know. He
If
left,
did,
I think,
never-
after that year.
Yeah, we
Took
never
the
saw
monkey
him
with
again.
him.
Yeah.
The monkey with him, I guess. I
And
don't,
the monkey left.
yeah, there's not a wild monkey running around here anywhere, is there?
Well, tell me about Butch Price as a teacher.
Butch Price never ages. He looks just like he did, back then. I don't really remember a whole lot about the classes, other than it was just that whole year was a fun time because we knew that was going to be the last 7th grade class. So it was a little different. We got to, in fact, the pictures, I guess that you had, we got to do a faux city council at that point, and that was before Butch was a city councilman and that kind of stuff. But I think all three of us were on that. I think I was a councilman. I don't remember
I
what
was
you
a
were.
city attorney.
City attorney. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Jim was probably the bailiff or
Yeah,
something.
no doubt.
But anyway, we were all on that faux city council for a day, you know, is what it was. And but Butch was really good. I really liked his wife. She was the English teacher, and it was really, when she passed away, that was really a sad time because everybody really, really liked her.
She passed away during that?
No,
during that
no,
time?
it was after that, but it wasn't that
She was
long.
still real young.
Yeah,
though. It
she was young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Butch Price. We played a church league, and
Oh, yeah.
we went to the Methodist church,
Uh-huh.
and then it moved out to where on the lake, and we were in a church league right after high school, I think. And Butch played on that league. Henry Nettles played with us. David Jones.
It wasn't one that McBrayer played on, did it?
No,
It
he
was a
played.
different
Alan
league.
played. Alan
Oh,
played with
different
him.
league. Okay.
So,
Right.
so he wasn't that much older than us, Butch, to be still
No, I
playing
guess
on the
not.
same
Yeah.
team with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jimmy, you mentioned Autry Baptist Church. Your parents, I guess that's the church you grew up in?
Yes. Both my parents and grandparents were both from Paulding County. So I spent a lot of time over there because of that. But when we came over here, we joined, or my parents joined Autry Baptist. Why, I don't know. But it turned out to be very good place for us. I still have friends that I went to church with that I grew up in that church with. In fact, I've seen a couple of them in the last couple of weeks and still stay in touch with them. But it was a small country church. And then you guys kind of went to the city churches, and I went to the country church. So
Yep.
I'm the country boy.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, we went there, and it was just a fun time. And some of the people that went there, some of them went to Cassville High School because that was the only county school in Bartow at the time, and it was a hike to go to Cassville because just north of Autry is the Bartow County line.
Yeah.
So they would go, from there all the way to Cassville.
Wow.
But then some of them also went to the North Cobb. So we, stayed in touch with all of them. But it was a fun place to grow up. Some good people. I just remember riding my bike here in town. You go to one end of town, if you did something or got in trouble, you couldn't go back home and deny it because it beat you there. They've already called your parents and said, this is happening, so you might as well just go fess up and suffer the consequences.
Well, now tell me about Hubert Allen and your family connection with Hubert Allen and just tell me
Well,
about your family connection.
When I remember him, I guess I'm probably 11 or 12 years old. My father, who worked for Lockheed, but he was also a carpenter, and he could build anything. So he got involved with Hubert Allen because Allen's Five and Dime had about 15 stores around northern Georgia. And my father built a lot of the display cases and whatever for the stores. So they became very, very good friends. And then when I was about 15 years old, I went to work in their warehouse, which is now part of the bookstore and where they have the ballroom dancing and all that kind of stuff on Main Street. That used to be the warehouse. And so we would supply the 15 stores on a weekly basis with whatever their orders were. So we got to know Hubert Allen very, very well. In fact, for about 2 or 3 years before Hubert Allen passed away, every Saturday night he would take my mom, my dad, and myself down to the Rio Vista in Marietta. And we'd go down there and eat catfish and chicken, some of the best food in the world. So we'd go down there. And I remember about 2 weeks before he passed away, he called my dad up and he said, I want to break bread with you one more time before he dies. And so they went down there and ate at Rio Vista, like always. So. But Hubert was a good guy. One interesting fact about him, he never washed a shirt.
Never
Never washed a shirt. he'd wear a shirt. When he'd get dirty, he'd throw it away, and he'd go in the 5 and dime store and get him another shirt. And he just kept it, but never washed the shirt.
That's pretty strange.
Yeah.
That's right.
Only in small towns, right?
Oh, yeah. Mayberry.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Well, we
true.
know something that nobody else knows about Hubert Allen.
Yeah, but he was an interesting guy. He was what a lot of people don't know about him. He lived in a house right there close to what we call Little Dam, the dam between Lake Ackworth and Altoona.
Yeah.
He lived there, and a lot of people don't know, but his net worth was over $1 million. He was a millionaire living here in Ackworth. Yeah.
When $1 million meant something.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, but it was well over $1 million. But he was,
Now, to some of us, $1 million still means something.
Yeah, well, yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, it meant a lot back then.
But another story about that house that he lived in. After he sold the house, it became a gambling area, and they actually cut out a lot of the dirt behind the house for parking. And they built a fence around it so people would come in and they'd park behind the fence. And they had false lights in the windows because they had boarded up windows and had the lights in there so it looked like somebody lived there. And so they got caught by the feds, I guess, for illegal gambling. Hubert got the house back, and I remember going in the house with my dad because he had to pull all that stuff out for Hubert. And seeing, all these, velvet couches and these, gambling tables and all that kind of stuff.
Right here in Ackworth.
Right here amongst
In
us.
River City.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Kurt, I wanted to ask you, you were talking about teachers a little bit earlier. You mentioned Charlie Addix as a good history teacher. Talk about that.
He just sticks in my memory. When we were still living over on Summit Circle at the south end of town, they were our neighbors, he and his wife Mally. And Mally was our first grade teacher.
Yeah, and she was Joe Hayes' daughter.
And she was Joe Hayes' daughter. But Charlie, I always liked Charlie. And when I got to 6th grade, he was our history teacher. And he just made it so doggone interesting. I mean, because up till then it was all, okay, here's the date, here's the place, memorize all this, and then you get tested on it. But Charlie, it was almost like, it reminded me kind of later on in life, it reminded me of more of like a college level class because he would add things that were not in the book. He would talk about things from a perspective of human motivations, how people thought and why they did certain things and things that you just didn't see in the textbook. So I just always remember they just really kind of got me interested in history.
Yeah.
So, what happened to him? Did he have a long career here, or?
Did they move away? I don't.
Well, she passed away.
He did too, didn't he?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I think he did. I don't remember when she passed away, but they lived here a long time. Joe Hayes brought in a bunch of teachers from Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, the Alabama invasion.
The
That's
Alabama
right.
Mafia, yeah, and they were good. They were good teachers. But when he took
That
over,
included Butch Price.
Butch
Yes.
Price,
I forgot
Bill
about
Hamilton.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was one of that.
He
group?
was. They were. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Alan, we were talking earlier, I've interviewed your father and your brother before. Why don't you talk about some of the people who had influence on you?
Well, the biggest influence were Mom and Dad and Perry. I mean, I just had a spectacular family. Perry and I, our families lived here when we were born. Mom and Dad were born in Ackworth. Our both grandfathers had farms within a half a mile of Henry's in early 1900s. Our paternal grandfather had a crop farm where Ackworth Beach and Lake Ackworth are. Dad was physically born in a house in 1925 overlooking Ackworth Beach. And our maternal grandfather owned a cattle farm, which is now where Holbrook Assisted Living is. Before that, it was Day Chevrolet. Grandmother sold that land to Levi Day to build Day Chevrolet on that property. But anyway, Mom and Dad, just to give a little bit of history, Mom and Dad, born in 1925, they started at Ackworth Elementary School the same day in 1931. They both had the lead roles in the senior play at Ackworth High School as husband and wife. The play was called Look Me in the Eye. I've still got the program. One of the sponsors was Ackworth Pharmacy, which Dad would later own, which was kind of interesting. And then Dad went off to World War II for 3 years, came back, and Mom and Dad were married for 68 years. But the reason I say they were the role models is because they really just set the standard for how life should be lived. Respect everybody, treat everybody nice, and that was the theme of Ackworth, because everybody was like that. All the families, we grew up together, and every parent knew every kid and everything about. Of course, Dad was a pharmacist, and they know everybody and everything about everybody.
That's true. That's true.
But that I would have to say Mom and Dad and Perry. Of course, he's always been the great role model older brother. He has quite a history in Ackworth. I'm extremely proud of him. So those are the biggest influences.
Great. And Jim Owen, you had mentioned Coach Dickey. Why don't you talk about him?
Yeah, I had to think about that. You would think I'd name a teacher or somebody who had the most influence, but we played a lot of basketball, and we played, a couple of years in North Cobb, and I guess Dickey came in. When did he come in? Came in from Connecticut, so he wasn't a local. He wasn't a native. And it was big, tall. He's a good ball player, good coach, but he
played at Berry.
Yeah,
College.
That's right. That's how he ended up down here, I think. And he just acted like an old, gruff, mean old thing, but he wasn't. He had a heart of gold. Yeah. And he had a great sense of humor. And, gosh, I probably spent more time with him than I did with my parents growing up, because we were always going to school and playing ball. And Dickey was he taught me a lot about teamwork and hard work and discipline. And he just seemed to care a lot about us, not just as ball players, but as students or people.
Yeah, I never played for him, but I had a couple of classes with him. Yeah, my senior year, I took an architectural drafting class from him.
Oh, really?
I did one drawing the whole year. The rest of the year, I spent polishing all of your basketballs.
Right.
Yeah, and he was trying to invent this rebounding machine. You remember that?
I forgot about that.
So we worked on that.
Had a
They
rope
had a
on
rope
it,
with a
yeah.
basketball on it, or some kind of weird
He made
thing.
us use it.
He always had ideas. One time he painted footsteps on the court where you had to follow those footsteps to do a layup. Of course, there's no way you can look at that and do
a
it
layup
comfortably. But.
Yeah. But the funny thing about it, he passed away in the last 5 or 6 years, and I still stay in touch with his wife, Linda Dickey. And not long before he passed away, the three of us went over to his house, and she told us, she said, that's the best day he'd had in a long, long time. We took old pictures and everything, and just sit and talk.
I still got
for a
that
couple
picture
hours.
on my phone of the three of us, and I can't delete it because it's the last picture of Coach Dickey. And
One thing about sports is North Cobb was always considered the country school.
Yeah.
And the city schools were Wheeler and Wills and Sprayberry. And they kind of looked, Marietta, and they kind of looked down on us as a country school. They really didn't think we should be able to compete with them. So it was really fun. Like said earlier, we grew up in a neighborhood where we just played sports all the time. Jim and I were tennis partners, and when we were juniors, North Cobb was Class A, and we won the first sports state championship for North Cobb in boys doubles down in Macon, Georgia. Wow. And the principal, assistant principal sent us a telegram to congratulate us along the path and wish us good luck for the finals the next day. And then I have a picture of the old Burger Chief on Main Street where the marquee said, congratulations, Jim and Alan, state doubles.
Jimmy and Alan.
Yeah.
It actually says Jim.
Oh, didn't it say Jim?
Yeah.
They ran out of work.
Probably ran out of letters.
But anyway, that was in tennis. And then our senior year in basketball, we won the first boys basketball trophy championship for North Cobb.
Sub-region, yeah.
So we won the first state championship in tennis, and then we won the first basketball championship, which was interesting because in the area, the last basketball championship before that was Dad's team in 1942, Ackworth High School. And I was in Coach Dickey's class, the shop class that you're talking about, and one day we were cleaning out a room, and I came across the trophy, and it was Mom and Dad's team trophy from 1942. And he gave it to me, and this was like in.
And you say mom and dad.
Mom was the basketball team manager.
Oh,
Dad was the starting center on the basketball team.
okay.
And they won the Cobb County Championship in 1942, but there were only 4 high schools in Cobb County. But I still have the trophy. And he gave it to me in September. I didn't tell Mom and Dad I had it, so I wrapped it and put it under the Christmas tree. So at Christmas time, they got their team trophy from a long time ago. So that was kind of a neat little history.
Yeah, for sure. Now you say sub-region in basketball. What was the sub-region?
It just popped in my head.
The region was big, so they divided it into 2 sub-regions.
Okay.
So
A lot of North Georgia schools.
Yeah, and we were Class A,
Yeah.
and then
Smaller
as
schools.
juniors, and then it went to Double A as
Yeah.
seniors. It changed to Double
Yeah,
A.
when we were juniors, we were playing in the division, like you said. We went all over. I remember riding the yellow school bus all over
North Georgia,
with
yeah.
what, Cass, Cartersville, Rockmart, Bremen, all those
Adairsville,
schools was
probably,
our region. And then when we were seniors, I think I'm right, we went to Double A and we played Cobb County schools.
Yeah, Wheeler and
So,
those guys. Yeah.
It was all,
Yeah, at one point I was going to make about Coach Dickey is because we were seen as a country school up here, and the city
Yeah.
schools didn't think we could compete with them. It was really fun our senior year when we beat them all
we had
multiple
a
times.
really good team.
Wills had won a state championship. We beat them 4 times that year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, their head coach, Paul Ross, after I graduated, went to Southern Tech to play basketball. He goes to Southern Tech, and he's now my coach, and he did not like me from day one. There was bad history there. But we also beat Sprayberry 3 times that year. We beat Wheeler that year.
Wheeler was really
And
good.
Coach Dickey was named Cobb County Basketball Coach of the Year, which was really special to us because we were seen as that country school that couldn't compete, and we all proved them wrong.
What was his first name?
Russell.
Russell.
Russell. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so what, you all look about the same height to me. Who was the center? Who were the forwards? Who were the guards?
Well, they were the only 2 basketball players.
Oh, they were the only two.
Yeah.
Okay.
They weren't any good.
They're
Yeah.
not any
We
good?
didn't.
We were more artsy.
Okay. Okay, so what did you play?
Well, what's funny is I was 5'8" in the 10th grade
Yep.
and 6'3" as a senior.
Okay.
Yeah, that's some
so
bigger
growth,
oaths.
So I shot up, and that
I mean,
was
Allen led the county in scoring
Yeah.
senior
Really?
year.
And what, you played center? or
I was forward. I was a
forward?
shooting forward. I was
Uh-huh.
but it was a lot of fun. Got a lot of great memories.
What about Jimmy? What did you play?
I was a shooting guard.
You were a shooting guard.
I
Okay.
could, and yeah, he was not that I remember all this, but he was the #1 scorer and I was the #2 scorer our senior year.
Is that right?
Not that I'm keeping score.
No.
So,
You'll never forget that. will
I'll
you?
never forget that.
Did you have a real tall center or?
Not
I
not
thought
really.
you were the center. Was it Philip?
Was it Philip or Cecil, right?
Cecil, and we kind of alternated. We kind of rotated. Cecil Thicklin was a good ball player, and then the younger class,
Phil Cochran.
Philip Cochran and David Johnson was a great ball player.
Yeah.
Later on, I think he was the first two all-state in 2 sports.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we all made each other better because we all played together all the time.
Who was the point guard?
Ricky
Ricky
Nelson.
Ricky Nelson.
Ricky Nelson?
Yeah, Larry's
Right.
brother, younger brother. Yeah.
Obviously not the
really?
singer, Ricky
Mhm.
Nelson, but
Sounded like he should be a singer, didn't it? Ricky Nelson?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, we were talking about carpooling a while ago. My father actually carpooled with Ricky and Larry's father to go to Lockheed.
Is that right?
Yeah, Vernon. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's such a small world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so basketball, tennis, what did you all play?
The radio.
The radio.
No,
chorus.
I was in chorus.
Band?
He was in band.
I was in band.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
were musicians then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my sports were pretty limited to backyard stuff.
Okay.
Football, baseball, you
Yeah.
know, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I played a lot of rec stuff like baseball and whatever, Pony League baseball and whatever.
Okay.
I was in the North Cobb marching band in the 9th grade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Playing the trombone.
Yes.
Until one winter snowy day, they called Mom and Dad and me to the principal's office, and the basketball coach and principal sat down and said, "You can't do both. You've got to choose either band or basketball."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I cried that night because I really liked them both.
same thing. I was Kurt, you may remember, I was first chair trumpet.
For a while.
And till you beat me out, probably. That's first
Probably.
chair trumpet. Same thing, they just couldn't do the band and because they wanted you to march. That's what it was.
Well, I mean, I can see how you couldn't play football and be in the marching band.
Well,
Why
there were a
couldn't you do basketball?
there were a couple of guys that did that. Bob Lunsford did that, and Frank Black did that, and so there were some guys that tried to do that,
Yeah,
but
they just
it's
didn't.
hard. It really,
Yeah.
it's you know.
If they're all, if you're practicing at the same time that basketball is also practicing.
Sure.
I mean, they flat out told me I couldn't
They told
do
me
it.
that.
That's
They said,
I
"You
never
gotta
heard
pick."
that before.
I was playing football too, so I obviously couldn't do.
Yeah, you can't.
You did
Yeah, it's
marching
just
band.
you
Oh,
can't
so
do
you
it.
played football?
Yeah, a couple years. Yeah,
Okay.
I was not. Well, even back then, it got where it was hard to play multiple sports.
Yeah.
So I played a couple years, and then about, I think maybe my junior year, I went just straight to basketball and tennis.
Decided you were tired of banging your head in
But,
football?
And I wasn't that big back then. But I always found it interesting how close we all were, because usually the football guys hang with the football guys and
Yeah.
don't associate with the band, and the basketball do there. But we all hung out.
We were all in classes
yeah, we
together.
all
I mean,
hung out, and
you didn't really have those cliques.
yeah, that's the word I was
Yeah.
good. It didn't
It was,
matter.
it was a simpler life back
Yeah,
then. I mean,
yeah.
you think of it, there were only three choices about everything. There were only three different automobiles.
Yeah.
You know,
Three-
from Detroit.
three
There were
TV stations.
Three stations
stations,
on the
yep,
TV.
yep.
There were only three suppliers of tennis shoes. Keds, Converse, I think PF Flyers. I
PF
think.
Flyers,
There were
yeah.
only three choices. So, and TV stopped at like midnight. And
Yeah.
there was no TV from
They
midnight.
played
to-
the national
National anthem, then the test
That
battle.
ended.
and then they had the Indian in the middle of the
Yeah.
Yeah.
test pattern.
But it was black and white TV
Yeah.
until about, gosh,
Early '60s.
Mm-hmm.
early 60s. And then it got so exciting in the neighborhood, the first people that would get a color TV,
Yeah.
Singletaries had one,
Yeah.
would watch Bonanza and Batman. And,
Yeah.
But you couldn't watch Bonanza
What-
and Disney at the same time because they were on opposite channels.
yeah,
And I
but they were
hated
great
that.
in full color, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Watching
true.
black and white TV and air conditioned houses.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
I remember when we got our
Exactly.
first color TV and our first air conditioner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
air
was it?
conditioner was having a fan in the
A
window.
fan. Yeah.
Ceiling fans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, not ceiling fans, attic.
Attic
fans.
Attic
fans.
fans,
fans.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was such a simpler life back then. It just wasn't as complex. Like, you know, when I think back of growing up here, it was hot dog hamburger cookouts in the backyard, homemade ice cream,
Yeah.
a lot of parades. Every holiday there was a parade.
The Labor Day picnic over at Coates and
Coates and Clark's.
Brunswick stew and the labor.
Oh,
that was
Brunswick
yeah,
stew
that
was the
was-
best.
That was so
Yeah.
good.
Hanging out at Lake Ackworth Beach,
Yeah.
and water skiing on Lake Allatoona.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, one of you had a sister that was really good in basketball, didn't
That's
Yeah.
Becky.
Yeah, my older sister was played. She was all state, but that was what was interesting. That's back. You probably remember that girls basketball
Oh, 3 on
stopped
3.
at half court.
The 3-on-3.
Yeah, you played at half court. So she was defense. It was all state, but she never went on the other side of the court to play offense because you remember you handed the ball.
Yeah.
You
Passed
handed the
the
ball
ball
over
at-
the
at-
half court line because I guess they thought girls weren't
you?
capable of
Just been one-
running the whole time or something.
Yeah.
This
which
is
wasn't right.
pre-Title IX, so.
But yeah, so
That
she
actually
she was
changed,
good.
I think, when we were in early
Yeah,
high school.
it wasn't like that when we were in high school. She's a couple years older than me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So there wasn't any place to go play college basketball for, I guess, at that time.
She was.
Not for girls, I don't
Yeah, I
remember.
don't think there were
'cause
any girls.
Nobody
Very
was
little.
better than Missy Underwood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Missy
right.
Underwood.
And if
was
anybody
good.
could have played D1 basketball, that would have been
her.
Missy.
Yeah.
She was fantastic.
Okay, well, tell me why North Cobb High School was so special.
I think it goes back to the fact that we all grew up together, and then all of a sudden at middle school, that was a year we go to Autry. And now for the first time ever, we were only 50% of the class. Now it's 50% Kennesaw, 50% Ackworth. So we stayed really close
Yeah.
together, all from Ackworth, but everybody was friendly with Kennesaw. So we merged. It was a very smooth transition. And to this day, we're just as close to people with Kennesaw. But that was an interesting transition for our class, I think.
Yeah.
I think that made a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now, you also are going to high school right about the time that Cobb County schools are integrating, or
Yep.
maybe middle school first.
I think the middle school is when it integrated, the
For
integration
you know,
does, yeah.
65 is really when it starts.
But it really didn't affect us because we were already playing baseball and football with the guys. So we already knew them and whatever, and they were our friends, and our parents worked together. So it really wasn't a bad, it wasn't a difficult transition.
Well, I mean, you look at just about any basketball team nowadays, and 3/4 of the players are African American.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you have any black players playing?
In high school, Cecil Thicklin was a very good ball player
Yeah.
and a good friend of ours. And he was
Willie
the only-
Griffith?
Willie before that.
Yeah, was he? Yeah.
Willie had a scoring record, actually
Yep.
beat Larry Nelson. But anyway, but he was the only one on our team. Cecil was.
Yeah, the
And then I
seniors.
went to Southern Tech and played there for 4 years. My freshman year, we only had one black player, it was, Curtis Bevins. He was a superstar. And by the time I was a senior, it was a predominantly black team. It made that transition in those 4 years.
Wow. Well, and thinking about Ackworth area at that time, the African American population wasn't that large, I guess. Maybe a little more in Ackworth than in the unincorporated parts of Cobb County. But 1970, it was 96% white in Cobb County.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
think our high school had, what, maybe 10%?
No,
Not
probably not
even
even that
5%.
much. Probably not even that much, maybe 5. I mean, the whole high school, when we were seniors, was 800 kids.
Yeah.
Now, the graduating class in North Cobb's almost 800. So, of those 800, we probably knew 75% of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't matter if we were seniors or juniors or sophomores. Everybody just kind of got along together. That was, to me, what made this school special. You didn't have, you know,
cliques you
these
were.
groups, cliques and whatever. It was just a bunch of nice folks, you know, hanging out together.
Yeah, everybody got along. In fact, the girls also had, I think there was just one black player, Beverly Griffin.
Beverly Griffin, yeah.
She's nice
Beverly,
as,
who still lives here in town.
nice as she could be. And,
Yeah.
but everybody got along to the best of my knowledge.
Went to the proms together, and,
Yeah.
the dances and.
I don't ever remember any issues
problems
with,
So from the beginning, you had, you didn't have segregated proms. Everybody went to the same prom, white
Yeah.
and black.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any friction? I guess Mill Village is really past tense by the time y'all came along.
No, it was still
No,
there.
yeah.
It was still there.
Yeah.
Because Coase and Clark's Mill was still viable at that point. I mean, it probably late, May after we even graduated is when they closed it.
Yeah, it was still going.
Yeah, it was still
Yeah, it
going.
was still
Trying
going.
to think what, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember, somewhere along the line, they started selling, the mill started selling the housing.
Yeah, to the owner, or to the people that owned it.
So you were asking if we were, like, maybe had some
That's what I
conflict
was
with them? Yeah.
leading to.
Yeah.
Was
No.
there any friction?
You know, that's what, like Alan was saying, I mean, that's one thing that's special about North Cobb is, of course, we had some conflicts or some.
Yeah.
I
You're
don't
going to always
remember-
have that.
You're always going to
but-
have that.
But not, I don't remember a lot of fights in the.
I don't think
in
it
the
was.
hallway, but.
There wasn't conflicts between people who lived in one area of town versus the other area of town.
No, it's just
That
individuals.
wasn't that, it was just
individual
individuals.
conflicts, which you
Because,
have
I mean,
anywhere.
in the Mill Village, you had, you know, Mickey Brown, who was a great baseball player. He lived there. The Garretts lived there. I mean, it was people that we knew and went to school with all the time, and it wasn't a big deal.
I was always, that's, like I said, that's, North Cobb was special because I still remember we hung out with people, some people lived in trailers, and some people, dads were doctors. And,
Yeah.
and
Didn't
then
make a difference.
when they graduated, some of them went on, our good friends, to be anything from a truck driver, which is fine, to a
Yeah.
carpenter, to construction worker, to a doctor. So
Yeah.
it was a good mix of people, and we all respected each other and got along. And
One thing I found to be really interesting, because I left here after high school when I was 17.
Yeah.
And so when I left here, it was the quiet farming town, one red light, and there just wasn't a lot going on, so to speak, other than the lake, because we went on the lake
Yeah.
every day all summer. But so I was basically gone for the next 50 years, and I came back a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago almost. And to see it evolve from a quiet small town to a thriving great American city is just spectacular.
But it still has a small town feel.
It does.
that's what I like
we
about
have
it.
like 4 major restaurants, all 4 of them
Yeah.
are award-winning restaurants. But now that I've been back a while and started to reconnect with a lot of people from Ackworth, I told somebody the other day, I said, okay, here's Ackworth. It's a modern it's 80% modern Mayberry and 20% Harper Valley.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And my brother, I told them, he laughed, and he said, but every small town is 20% Harper Valley. I said, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But it was fun to watch the transformation of the city.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting now Henry's the one that changed everything when he made it a destination. And then Mayor Tommy comes in, and all the city councilmen, they work together so well, and the development, what they've done is just
They're
spectacular.
very forward thinking.
I wanted to just ask one more question on the friction that you all say wasn't there. Jimmy, Dan, you were the first in your family to graduate from high school.
Correct.
Was there any? Did you ever feel? Your father was involved in a lot of things in the community, I know. But did you ever feel any sensitivity about
Not a
parents
bit.
not
Not a
having
bit.
a lot of education?
In fact, these two guys, no, it was Johnny, when we were down in Florida one time, and it was me and you and Johnny sitting there, everybody else had gone somewhere else. And this was 5 years ago or so. They didn't know it until then. And I told you about it. And
What
yeah,
about?
that. My father, he grew up in the Depression. He had to stop when he was in the 6th grade to help with the family. My mom went through the 9th grade, and then she stopped. I don't know the particular reason, but they were farmers too, so he had to help with the family there. And then both my sisters, older sisters, both got married in high school, and they quit high school. So I was the very first one to ever graduate high school. Also, the very first one to ever graduate college.
Oh, well, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, even in my extended family,
Yeah.
I was one of the first. Yeah,
I didn't know all that.
yeah.
I've known
But
you
it,
60.
but it doesn't matter. That's the
No,
thing
it
about it.
doesn't.
It doesn't matter. And I learned this from my father. He said everybody puts their pants on the same way. And he said it doesn't matter if they don't have a plug nickel or they're the richest man in town. Everybody's the same. And that's the way, to me, this town was. Everybody was the same.
It goes back to Martin Luther King saying,
Yeah.
you judge a person by the content of their
Their
character.
character.
And that's what we all did. We like each other because
Yeah.
we like each other's character and stuff. And
Yeah.
I, like you said, I don't remember any friction.
No.
It was about character.
I just remember, my wife tells me all the time, your dad was probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. And he was, quitting 6th grade. But
Had
he
to
was,
work.
he had a lot of, he had street smarts. And he could do anything, he could build anything. It was just,
Okay, how many of you had long hair back then?
I had a lot more than I had now.
In high school?
Once we got out of high school,
Yeah, it was after high school.
Yeah, it was
I think.
after
after
high
high
school.
school.
I
I didn't have
hair on
long
my
hair in
shoulders.
high
They
school.
wouldn't let you do it in high school?
Oh,
No.
well,
Well, you
My parents wouldn't let me
still
do
live
it.
with your parents then, so.
We wore funny clothes, Nehru jackets and chains and
Oh, yeah,
and,
you were
uh,
just,
You did that?
colorful pants and stuff. It
yeah,
was-
You did that, Alan?
Sure.
sure.
I remember,
Especially
I
Did you ever
remember.
bring any pictures in of what you looked like?
No, and thank goodness there aren't any.
In fact, he
That I'm
scanned
aware
in
of.
our pictures from high school out of the annual. So,
Back in those days, especially on sports, they wouldn't let you grow your
Yeah.
hair out. They were
Oh,
real
yeah.
ry And now they're not now, but
So
they
it made
were.
a difference if
they
you
were-
were.
Well,
Yeah,
North
you
Cobb,
had to- you
yeah,
had to
North
keep it
Cobb
cut.
they had a dress code. I don't
Mhm.
think we could even wear blue jeans back
I
then.
don't think so.
The only
I
time
don't-
I remember at North Cobb when the dress code was in question, somebody wore a white T-shirt, and I don't remember who it was, but they made that person leave school, go home, get a regular shirt. Okay.
Didn't the girls have to wear
Oh, they couldn't wear
dress?
pants.
They
They
couldn't
couldn't
wear
wear
pants.
pants.
Yeah,
till
they couldn't
we were
wear-
like
Right,
junior,
yeah.
senior.
But the next day, most of the school came in with white T-shirts. That's just kind of we all stuck together.
We
you know?
kind of did have a rebellious group.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, now there's a little war that's going on in 1971, even though it's winding down. How did that influence you all as you were finishing high school?
Well, I just remember going through the draft lottery twice.
Okay.
And,
That started in '69.
yeah, and having to sit there and watch on TV, they pull your
Pull the numbers.
number and your birthday and they match them up.
Okay, so y'all had a 350, 360 draft number?
No, one was in 300, one was in 200s for myself. Yours
I was actually at Auburn University. And that's the same thing. I remember sitting around watching
Yeah.
the TV, and most of the guys were drinking, sitting around watching the TV.
Yeah,
And my number was 40.
yeah.
So I was 40.
And
So I was
his twin
gone.
brother too, yeah, same thing.
Well, of course.
Well, you could have been born on different days,
but-
you know, depends on when midnight was.
Well, you're right. You're right. So
Does everybody remember their number?
I,
I actually brought the article with me.
I just
It has
found
them, so
out
we were
mine,
just
yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
it. I was
was yours?
160.
I think, wasn't it 349?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my first one was
You were
331.
349?
And the irony is, I
You went to
I went to a
military school.
military college, and I
Oh,
had
it didn't matter then for
well,
you.
I had a Navy scholarship, so I was going in for 4 years. That was
No matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
Well, at
So
least the war was over by that time.
yeah, and
They-
yeah, so being number 40, I was, like I said, I was going to be gone. And when did Nixon? Nixon came on and pulled us out of the war, within?
68, wasn't it?
No, he didn't pull us out.
No,
I mean,
no.
No, but
I
he was,
not-
72.
he was elected. Well, he was reelected, wasn't he?
Re-elected
Yeah.
in
So
72.
68 and then 72.
72.
So it must have been 72, because
Yeah.
72 is when I got that draft number.
Yeah.
It was
yeah,
Yeah.
not good.
Number 40.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and you were going to Georgia State after you left high school?
I went to Auburn for 2 years and
Oh,
didn't,
Auburn.
didn't finish,
Sorry,
and then
sorry.
worked for a while, then
Yeah.
got on with IBM and started back at school at night. So I
Okay,
went to school.
so you've got a number 40 at Auburn. And did you not
Student.
get drafted?
Deferment, student
Well,
deferment.
they pulled us out of the war. That's what it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah,
Because the war ended.
Yeah, the war.
Yeah.
Nixon.
Yeah.
And then the draft ended not too
Yeah,
long
the draft,
after
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
yeah. When I was a junior in high school,
Uh-huh.
we had a new course teacher, and
Uh-huh.
Harris Wheeler came from Shorter.
Okay.
And he was only 4 or 5 years older than us, so
Uh-huh.
he came down and became my new course teacher, and we were his first class. But he also stayed at North Cobb, I think, for 9 or 10 years. Then he wrote what was it?
Della's Diner.
Della's Diner, and he wrote all the music for that. And he traveled with Della's Diner for about 10 years.
Off Broadway in New
Off
York.
Broadway. Then
Very
he came back
talented.
and taught at McEachern for about 10 years.
Uh-huh.
Then he went to Mount Perrin and taught there until he retired. But during this whole period of time, he worked for Six Flags, 5 different Six Flags location, and he was the music director for all the programs.
Wow.
So, and we've stayed in touch with him over the years. So last December, Alan had just gotten a new electronic grand piano for his house. So we called Harris up and we said, what would you like to come up and do not a concert, but just come up and play some, and we brought food and whatever. And there was about 20, 25 of us there. And he came up and played for about 2 hours and told stories and whatever about, all of his travels and everything. But all of us, you weren't there though.
No, I didn't
he
make that
he
one.
had something going on, but the 3 of us were there with our wives, and it was just mesmerizing. Listen to him. But just recently, he's had a stroke, and he's lost the use of his left side. He's in rehab right now. So hopefully he will get that back, because I don't think I've ever met a more talented person than
And
Harris
a
Wheeler.
nice guy.
Very
Nice
guy,
fella.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice fellow.
Okay, so y'all graduated from high school, and Kurt went to the Citadel. Want to ask you in just a minute or two about Columbo and the Citadel. But you went to the Citadel. Jim Owen went to Auburn, and the other 2 of you went to Southern Tech.
And we rode together a lot. Yeah,
Did you?
to Southern Tech.
And so, and then Jim, you had graduated from Georgia State after Auburn, and
Yeah, it was probably 4 or 5 years later, because like I said, I was going at nights. So
yeah.
You were finding yourself.
finding myself.
Finding yourself.
He still hadn't found himself.
Okay, so y'all graduate from college and then have distinguished careers and don't see each other for a long time?
No, we stayed
No,
in
we
touch.
stayed in
Oh,
touch
you
for the
stayed
most
in
part.
touch, okay.
Yeah.
We have an annual event the first Friday in December where
Yeah.
we've done it now for 34 straight years,
Yeah.
35 straight years.
Wow, how about that?
So it's been interesting because people have moved away, got married, divorced, moved back,
Yeah.
but we all meet together in December.
First Friday in December.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Kurt, I want to hear about Columbo and how you got involved with the Columbo show.
Well, they were making an episode, and I guess it was 1974. It took place at a military school, so they had to find a suitable military school, and there
Where everybody had short hair.
ain't many military schools left.
No,
So
that's
even
true.
then, so they decided. I guess the Citadel was good with that, so they moved everything from California to Charleston in August of '74.
Yeah.
And so when I, everybody came back to school, they had already been filming in and around the campus. And they were probably there for 3 weeks at least. And so they were filming all over the place. And if you had a speaking part, because some of the cadets did have speaking parts, if you were lucky enough to have one of those, some of those guys are still getting residuals. To this day, I had a friend who just passed away, but he had a speaking part, and he told us, he said, I'm still getting checks for that. Really? They weren't big checks, but they're still getting checks. Anyway, I happened to be in one of the barracks one day where they were filming a scene, and those barracks are the rooms open out onto a gallery. And an open quadrangle. So I was hanging around on one of the galleries. I just happened to be there. And they were filming a scene with Peter Falk and what's his name, Patrick McGowan, and there were a bunch of us hanging around. And so they said, "You want to be in the scene as extras?" I said, "Sure, why not? I don't have anything going on." So I'm in one scene for a couple of minutes. That's my claim to
We never
fame.
knew you were that famous.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Can I have your autograph?
absolutely.
So
But the name of
somebody got murdered in the military academy? Is that?
Yeah, it was the son of the founder was trying to make the school go civilian. And the commandant, played by Patrick McGowan, was totally against that idea, so he rigged the salute cannon that they fired at parades to explode, and it killed the founder's son, and therein is where Columbo gets involved, and the name of the episode is By Dawn's Early Light. So that's it.
I'll go find that one.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, too.
All right.
I mentioned wanting to tell you one story about Joe Hayes because we're talking about people who are highly influential
Yeah.
to all of us. He is an iconic principal of Ackworth Elementary School.
Yeah.
My mom was, while Perry and I were at Ackworth Elementary, Mom was his assistant, the secretary. Her desk was right outside of his office. Later on, Jim's mom, when my mom left, his mom took my mom's place.
Yep.
Close community.
And my mom worked in the lunchroom.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But this story,
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
this was a great story. Is one day William Milton, the Ackworth Presbyterians pastor's son, I think he was probably maybe in the second or third grade, and the teacher sent him to the principal's office to take a message, to take a note. Well, when he arrives, in front of Mom's office, there's a line of 4 boys at Joe Hayes' door, and the door was shut. And so William stands in line to give Joe Hayes a message,
Okay.
not knowing that one by one they were entering to get a paddling.
Oh,
Back when you could paddle.
Back when you could paddle. So one by one they get a paddling, come out. William goes in, and before, he was very shy, pretty quiet personality. He goes in and he gets paddled. So he goes back to his teacher's room, and she comes up to Mom and said, "What just happened? William is in the room and he's got alligator tears. He got paddled." And Mom realized what happened, and she went, "Oh no." So she tells Joe Hayes. So Joe Hayes goes to William's second grade classroom, stands in front of the classroom, and tells William's class, tells everybody what just happened. And then he pulls out a paddle from behind his back, and he asks William to come to the front of the room. And Joe Hayes bent over and touched his own toes and had William paddle the principal in front of the class. For him to have turned William from a goat to a hero because of the way he handled that is as good as it comes.
Yeah.
That's why I told you he was a character.
Yeah.
He loved to fish. Remember?
Yes.
He loved to
Yeah,
fish.
he'd
And
he'd
I
pull
remember he
people
go
out.
crap, but he didn't like to clean the fish.
Yeah.
And him and my dad got good buddies, and he'd come over and dump a whole bunch of crappie out on the driveway because he didn't want to clean them. So we'd clean them and eat them. But
Well, who was it from, one of the students from school, he pulled him out to go fishing one day. I forget who that was. I don't remember who it was. but
different time.
Different
Yeah.
time, yeah.
Different
He was a bird hunter too. He liked to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. But he did, he started the Alabama, waterfalls toward the state of Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a bunch of it came
Bunch
over
of
too.
them.
Well,
Yeah.
you all obviously have fond memories of Ackworth.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add to the interview, any of you?
One really neat thing is Mom was on the infant roll at Ackworth Presbyterian Church in 1925. And so because of that, she was an active member for 91 years.
Wow.
And when they came and did the remake of the movie Footloose, they asked Mom and Dad to sit and be in the movie, but at this point they were over 80 and just said we can't sit for that long of a period of time, so they couldn't do it.
Mhm.
But she converted Dad. He was a Methodist, but she converted him. But it's a fond memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I remember, you remember the Kenny Rogers movie Six Pack?
Yep.
They did a lot of filming here in Ackworth and Kennesaw, and I had about a 15-second stint in that movie.
Is that right?
Yeah, a lot of people did. Carrie Bagley
Carrie
did.
Bagley did,
There's
yeah.
a bunch of folks that were around here that were in
You
that
still
movie.
getting checks like Kurt's friend?
I didn't have a speaking part.
No.
I was just one of the dancers on the dance floor at the bar. Yeah.
Well, if you don't have anything else you'd like to add, we'll just wind it up at this point. But thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to thank having 3 good friends like this.
Yeah.
And we could put 3 more that take their places or 3 more or whatever. It's just because there's a lot of them around.
Yep.